a house in Leixlip was burned down after false rumours circulated saying that it was going to be used for people seeking asylum. 4 days ago, the old Crooksling nursing home in Brittis was burnt down. On New Year's Eve, the old Shipwright pub in Ringsend was burnt down. It was due to house homeless people. We have seen 26 arson attacks in the last 5 years against premises rumoured to be used for asylum seekers. The pattern is very, very clear. A rumour starts, true or false, suggesting a property is going to be used. Far-right activists, people like Philip Dwyer, Gavin Pepper, Fergus Power, are quick to the scene. A few days later, it is burnt down. We should call what we are seeing what it is. We are witnessing a campaign of far-right terrorism in this state. And what has been the response? Almost nothing. Nobody charged, fiddling while the country burns. We finally have 3 arrests this morning for the arson in Ringsend. But contrast that with the state's approach to Debenhams workers, anti-water charges protesters, pro-Palestine protesters. Just a couple of weeks ago, 7 special branch officers turned up at the home of a young Palestinian solidarity activist at 7:30 in the morning and arrested her. She was held for 10 hours and charged with criminal damage, not for burning down a building, but for allegedly putting some washable red paint on the Department of Foreign Affairs. But look at how the political establishment is dancing to the tune of the arsonists, cutting financial support and accommodation for Ukrainians, chartering flights for more deportations, forcing vulnerable asylum seekers to sleep on the streets. 750 of them now living in fear of violent racist attacks. The BBC reports that this now includes women and children. Evelyn said she was threatened with a knife and given 5 minutes to leave before they come back and stab us. Your local Fianna Fáil councillors shamefully making excuses for the arsonists, refusing to cooperate with the Gardaí. You going along with the lie that immigration is the cause of many problems facing our society. It cedes more and more ground to the far right and it legitimises their arguments. Of course, it would be politically uncomfortable for you to tell the truth, that the reason we have a housing crisis is not because of immigration, but it's because you put the profits of big developers and landlords ahead of people's need for a home. We have a health crisis because you put the private hospitals and the insurance companies first. We have deep inequality, we have neglected communities because of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, which have run the state since its foundation. That is why ordinary people need to take a stand against the terrorism of the far right, against the racism, homophobia, sexism and hate that they try to spread, and against the housing crisis and inequality that you have created. It is why they will stand together on Saturday the 2nd of March, 1:30 p.m. at Parnell Square.
Now, Deputy, can I just say to you, you've named 4 individuals who are frequently named in the public media, and that's fine. But you've named them, and it's more or less in the context, I think, of suggesting possible involvement in nefarious activity. In other words, the burning down of buildings. That's not in order, if that's what you were suggesting.
No.
Well,
I'll repeat what I said if you want.
It's open to that conclusion.
I said the pattern is very clear, it is.
Just be very careful, please, Deputy. Minister.
Thank you very much, Count Corley. And Deputy, I think it's only you could come into the House and seek to blame the government for people burning down buildings. You know, that was an outrageous contribution, and you've actually made the work of the Gardaí more difficult and the work of our criminal justice system to secure successful prosecutions for people who are conducting criminal acts. And I don't think you've done anyone any service with the contribution that you've just made in that regard. We utterly condemn any criminal act where properties are being deliberately set on fire. It is arson, it is a criminal act, and the Gardaí are investigating. You've acknowledged arrests have been made today in one particular case, but the best thing that we can do is to reaffirm our support for the work of An Garda Síochána. that we will give them the necessary resources and whatever support that they need to do their work. These are difficult crimes to solve. Let's be honest, but they will do everything they possibly can to solve them and to send files to the DPP and ultimately achieve convictions. So I think it's important that we do stand together and provide our support, because these are heinous crimes that could not just end up in damaging or destroying property, but could end up taking human life, and that is the real risk that we are very concerned about, and I know you are concerned about as well. As a government, we have responded as comprehensively as we can, with the support of the people, to a wave of migration that we have had to respond to because of the war in Ukraine. Primarily, about 100,000 people from Ukraine have come to Ireland over the last 2 years because of Putin's invasion of that country. And our country has responded generously, as I think is befitting of the people that we are and the generosity of our nation. About 75,000 of these arrivals are currently being accommodated in state-provided accommodation, and in addition, we had last year over 13,000 applications for international protection here in Ireland, which was an increase on the 2019 level, the most comparable year recently, of about 177%. So there are nearly 27,000 people being accommodated in the IPAS system, compared with just over 19,000 at this time last year. So there is pressure on the system. We acknowledge that. Our population is growing. We have people coming here not just seeking international protection or seeking shelter from the war in Ukraine, but people coming here to avail of the employment opportunities that are in Ireland and indeed the quality of life as well. And the government is working together to respond to what is a very significant challenge. Minister O'Gorman and his team have done a remarkable job in the teeth of the most difficult migration challenge that we have faced, coming at a time when there has been a shortage of accommodation. But we are working together, and we will continue to support the Minister and IPAS and all of those involved in the state response, which has been generous, and we will continue to support people who come legally to Ireland within the rules-based system that we have.
Now, Deputy Murphy, will you adhere to the minute that's available, please?
Minister, I'm not blaming the government for the burning down of these buildings. I'm not sure where you got that impression. Those who are responsible for burning down the buildings are those who burnt down the buildings, and the far right, who are whipping up false fears, spreading hatred, spreading division, and creating an environment where this can happen. But what I am asking you is why, after 5 years of a terrorist campaign by the far right in this country, there has not been a single charge of arson. I am asking that. You are saying very, very difficult crimes to solve and so on. Well, let me tell you now, any potential building to be used for asylum seekers is in threat of being burned down. The state needs to be present. You have to protect the buildings. Whatever about solving the crimes that have taken place, can you please give a commitment that the Gardaí will be present to stop these buildings being burned down? Will you take people off the streets? They are in danger. Both Irish rough sleepers who are faced with inappropriate emergency accommodation forced onto the streets, they should not be on the streets, and asylum seekers. Do not allow people to be in danger in the street. And I'm blaming you for the inequality in our society, for the housing crisis in our society, for the health crisis in our society, which are exploited by the far right, which falsely take anger and don't point it upwards at the people you represent, but blame the vulnerable in our society. That's what I'm blaming you for.
Resume your seat.
Deputy, I believe you did essentially blame the government. You accused us of dancing to the tune, I think was the phrase you used, of the far right, and you blamed them for burning the buildings. So, you are drawing a correlation which I think is completely unjustified and is not defensible. But look, if that's the way you want to represent yourself and your views in the House, then so be it. I'm not sure if you're suggesting that the state would provide security at every vacant building in the country. Because bear in mind, some of the buildings that have been burned down have not been earmarked for international protection and have not been earmarked for Ukrainians. It is because of the spread of misinformation, disinformation, a small number of people who are seizing on this issue to spread hate and to spread fear, and ultimately it results in criminal acts being done. So the answer is not just a security response. That does play a part for sure, and we will do all that we can to support communities who are pushing back